We have three panelists, as you can see. Let me just introduce them quickly. On the right of the panel, as you see it, we have Emeka Nwachinamere, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Kitovu Technology, and we're going to ask him in a second to tell us what that is. Then to my left, we have Tabi Karikari, who is Agriculture and Natural Resource Management, the specialist in that field at the African Development Bank. Delighted to have you here. And to my right, we have Peter Awin, who is the co-founder of something called CowTribe Technology, which is obviously something to do with cows. So why don't you, I mean, I think I know what it is, but maybe there are people out there that don't. So why don't you take 1 minute to tell us what CowTribe is? It doesn't sound like it's working.
It doesn't?
Oh, hang on.
Oh,
Speak again.
okay.
Okay, you're on.
All right, so my name is Peter Awin, and I'm the co-founder of CowTribe Technology. We don't do with only cows. We also attend to other animals. So, my company is a last-mile vaccine distribution company. What it means is that we support farmers in rural areas in Africa to access vaccines. And we've been employing the use of mobile technology, which is something that is, comes handy to farmers. So farmers can use their phones to order for animal vaccines, and then we can distribute the vaccines to the farmers. It's interesting because we've been working with a lot of farmers, almost 30,000 farmers now, and we've distributed a lot of vaccines. It's important because, you know, these are services that are relevant for farmers in the rural areas, and it has been difficult to do this in the past years until now, and we are able to find a solution using, you know, digital.
And you grew up on a farm?
I did. So I was once a header. You can call me a shepherd. And I grew in a village up north in Tamale. And since then, I moved out to school, but then when I went back to the village, I saw that there was this connection that we can have with technology and delivering
What was
services
the problem that you were solving? The availability of vaccines, the deliverability of vaccines, the difficulty of storing vaccines so that they are in date and effective? What particularly was the problem that you were solving?
So so don't think about the vaccines. Think about a farmer needing any other service like fertilizer or seed in the rural area. The biggest challenge is how to connect with these farmers because they are scattered across the rural areas. You know, one farmer is here, the other farmer is somewhere like 5 kilometers away. There has to be a way of aggregating them to make the services more affordable and more easier for service providers to reach these farmers. So our technology allows, you know, farmers to be aggregated in one platform. So if you're a service provider, you see all of them, like thousands of farmers with, you know, within one place. And so you can deliver all kind of services to these farmers. And so that is the innovation in that, because then it becomes cheaper for you to deliver vaccines to the farmers and faster, because vaccines would, it really gets, you know, goes bad if you don't distribute.
Sure, there's a shelf life.
Yeah.
And when you say last mile focused delivery platform, great phrase, you are literally putting it into the guy's hand.
We are. And so we have to work with agents at the community level who would take the vaccines and quickly run to the farmer and deliver before it goes bad.
Okay, because it needs to be refrigerated, right?
It has to.
Okay, Emeka, same chance for you. Tell us what it is.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Kitovu is a social enterprise that removes the guesswork and supply chain inefficiencies in African agriculture. Basically, what we do is collect data, two sets of data, soil and market demand data. The soil data enables us to work with fertilizer companies to provide location-based fertilizers that are sort of soil and crop specific, while the market demand data enables us to tell farmers exactly what to grow so that there is no mismatch between what industry expects and what farmers are growing, because there's a huge disconnect between farmers and processors and commodity buyers. So you have processors and commodity buyers needing particular varieties, and then farmers grow what they are used to. So our approach has led to more than 3 times increase in yield, and at the same time, it reduces wastages across the value chain.
Okay, excellent, very good. Tabby, we don't need to ask you to tell us what the African Development Bank does, but if you could just put me and maybe I hope some other people will be useful to in the audience as well into the picture. Everything that I'm hearing indicates that clearly a great many people are employed in agriculture, very important industry from any number of points of view, but very, very diffuse, very, very, very diverse. Literally hundreds of thousands of individual businesses, let's call them that. Some of them maybe just one guy, others are bigger. But what is the spread of scale? How many sizable agricultural enterprises are we talking about in Ghana?
Well, in Ghana, I think that if my statistics was right, maybe you would have up to about 80% of the farmers being small scale or smallholders.
Okay.
But permit me, if you would, to explain that when we talk about agriculture, we are not just looking at farmers.
Sure.
Anytime we mention agriculture, it's easy for you to conceive it as that old, illiterate farmer in a remote area with rudimentary technologies trying to just survive. But imagine, and very excitingly, are these guys. These are the new guys in the agricultural landscapes. They are the new actors. And that is what we are gravitating towards.
When I say farmer, I'm not necessarily thinking of a guy scratching a living with one animal up a hill somewhere. So, but good point, good point. Agriculture covers the growing of food, basically. So market gardening, let's say, fruit and vegetables. Why, when we talk of digital disruption of traditional businesses, clearly travel agents, they were disrupted a long time ago, booksellers, retail generally, financial services, which is what we're here to talk about. I mean, maybe the answers are obvious, but rehearse them for us. Why does agriculture come a sort of distant fourth or fifth in terms of the digital disruption game?
Agriculture, as has been and as it is now, has got certain features and characteristics that make it not respond very easily to the opportunities that the digital age brings.
So what are those built-in challenges?
Some of those built-in challenges are the fact that people or many actors in the agricultural landscape are not as aware or as sophisticated as would be needed to be able to employ some of this. But again, I'm careful to say that when you look at the whole chain, from the researcher right through to the producer, the processor, and then to the consumer, there are a lot of players, actors in there who respond favorably to this. And a lot of the digital opportunities are not, so to put it, sector specific. Still farmers...
Things to do with transportation, for example, would be the kind of thing you're talking about.
Yeah. So sometimes even mobile money, farmers use mobile money. They transact with mobile money. So a lot of these things, but because we have also tried to see, or we have seen agriculture in a certain lens, it inhibits us from being able to see the whole spectrum. But I admit that agriculture is quite remote because of the characteristics that we have now of some of the players in the agricultural landscape.
Okay, Peter, dispersal, multiplicity of producers, those are obvious challenges, simple geography. So how do you overcome them? technology can be as smart as you like, but it can't overcome time and space. Well, it can overcome time, maybe.
So I think for us at CalTribe, we see it as an opportunity than a challenge because we exist because of those challenges. Without the challenge of trying to connect farmers that are dispersed, then we would not exist as a company. So if you look at agriculture as it exists today, we must be able to overcome these challenges without necessarily changing the landscape. Because agriculture naturally has to have those, it has to exist in that form. An example is that, and especially in Africa, because we've learned a lot from Europe, we've learned a lot from America, where agriculture is kind of like intensive, and now a lot of people are asking questions. So the last frontier is kind of like Africa, where we still have vast, lands for us to produce without necessarily putting all the production in one, smaller spaces.
And you have a population that's going to double in the next 30 years.
Exactly. So we need to start thinking about how we can maintain this landscape, but at the same time extend services that would have also been available to people within a concentrated population. When we started CalTribe, the major challenge we faced was how do you even reach the farmer in the first place to talk about the service that we deliver? It took us 8 months, literally knocking at every farmer's door and registering farmers onto the platform. It was very expensive, but now it gave us the profiles of these farmers, and now we are connected to these farmers every single minute. So I think at the beginning of this, you can look at it as a challenge, but if we build systems around the digital, technologies that exist now, and I can tell you in Ghana, almost every farmer has a mobile phone, which is an opportunity to deliver not just agricultural services, but almost everything we can think of.
Can you capture those numbers before you knock on the door and ask the guy for his number?
And that is the challenge. And
Because if you could, then you could do the kind of social media marketing stuff and education that Angela was talking about.
Exactly. And so in this morning when the Vice President was talking about what the government intends to do, it is critical for us to look at it from that angle, because when these farmers are captured, when you have the farmers on a database, you can reach them through the mobile phone, you can reach them through other digital means, then it opens another door for us to engage these farmers and the rural consumers in a different way than how you would have imagined it in an African village.
Sure.
For us, I remember 3 weeks ago we went to a community, and we realized that only 10% of the people that are on our database were women. So we asked them, they said they don't have phones, so most often we send the messages to their husbands to pass it to them. And so when they realized that they need to receive the messages themselves, they started buying mobile phones. So it's kind of like a chicken and egg situation.
Yeah. So
you
often
need to
is with
invest.
farming.
Yeah.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
Yes. So we need to invest in extending digital opportunity to these people, and that could bring the response that would push us to the level where we can deliver these services to them.
Emeka, what Peter's describing is obviously built into the market we're talking about, but there's another aspect of it that I'd like to hear your view on, which is, given that dispersal, multiplicity of producers, everybody's small, everybody's going to be paying you a small amount, quite hard to develop technology and indeed just marketing, going around knocking on doors, you've got to pay people to do that. How do you achieve scale and therefore an economically sustainable critical mass in a business like this, where you might have literally 100,000 potential customers and you've got to approach each one individually?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting question. So generally, it's a huge problem in agriculture because agriculture tends to be a bit fragmented. So you have all those smallholders. But I'll speak to how we went about the same problem. For us, we saw it as a huge challenge, but we also saw an opportunity there. Also, an opportunity to enable young people also create jobs for themselves. So our approach was to train young people. These young people were going to work with us as channel partners in each of those. So they are in every location. They take the technology and all the inputs or the stuff we're delivering to farmers, they deliver it last mile to the farmers working with us. So that way, it enables us to reach farmers, and that model enables us to easily aggregate farmers in terms of what they are producing, in terms of what they need. So it becomes easier. So if you want to reach 50 farmers in a locality that are widespread, you don't need to go to every of the farmers. All you need to do is to reach the channel partner who is in that particular location. That way, you are able to build for scale. So we took that a step further. Initially, when we started, we had to train all these guys individually. But then, as we grew, what we started doing was to digitize the training. So anybody who has a mobile platform can decide to be a channel partner, learns, he's assessed, and he does that. So it kind of helped us to be able to scale. And I think when you are working with fragmented markets like that, it's one approach to take in order to bring down the cost of customer acquisition to increase efficiency in the sector.
Can I ask you a rude question?
Okay.
Is Kitovu profitable at the moment?
No.
Is CowTribe? That's a no. Have either of you thought, sorry, I'm going to come to you in a second,
So
but these two young guys, you know, they've got a lot of things to say. Have either of you thought, don't worry, I'm sure you're very profitable. Has either of you thought of simply giving people telephones?
Yes. So the initial idea of CowTribe was more hardware. So we thought about that until we realized that farmers can easily get the telephones themselves. And the problem they face is not about having a telephone. It's about having the services that the telephone can, be connected with. So, so we just switched from being a hardware company.
I was thinking
to
about
a
the
software.
wives, the farmers' wives who don't have the telephone.
So, and again, we measured, we started CowTribe in 2016. And I can say for the communities that we work in, some of the communities, most of them didn't have telephones. But after 2 years of working there, we realized that they start to acquire these assets because they know what they can use it for. So, and again, I keep saying that we need to have something that can stimulate an interest in, digital technology. Mm-hmm. If they have a telephone and all what they can use is to make a call, one call in a day, they might not see that useful. But if that telephone can give them access to mobile, transactions, to be able to buy something from Accra or Kumasi or get fertilizer, if they can see all the opportunities in that one device, then they will be willing to invest maybe 100, Ghana cedis on a cheap, telephone. It doesn't have to be sophisticated like yours, but if it can do the work, then they will be willing to invest. So we see that as a critical thing, how to stimulate the interest of, rural consumers in digital technology.
Excellent. Terry, sorry, I feel as though I've been ignoring you, but these guys have got great stories to tell. Do you hear stories like this all the time? Are these two businesses unique, or are there businesses like this all over Africa?
Well, I think that they are unique. There are not too many of them. But I would want to comment a little on what has been said. Till now, in Africa, we are importing about 35 billion US dollar worth of food into Africa, which is expected to grow into around 110 billion if in 2025, if you continue to go this way. There should be something crusading. There should be something that will change. And what will change is will make us become better players in this global market. The African development situates itself at a position where it's going to be able to engender this change. Yes, they are scattered, but we believe in clustering. There is need for us to change the way that people look at things. Mm-hmm. The way people look at their animals as insurance. In case I have trouble, I sell one. there is need to change that to smooth the production chain so that somebody will know that I am producing calf. Somebody say, I am fattening calf for the market. Somebody is saying that I am processing this. And these are the actors. And these are the agricultural business executives that we are looking up for. When we go this way, then there is the likelihood that we would attract the right people into agriculture, and there is the likelihood that we will be able to grow. So there is need for us. I know that what you are doing to me are stopgap, because that's the situation we have now. But from the bank perspective and from many of the governments, they are looking at thinking how better to do this so that efficiencies will be enhanced for us to become more competitive.
Well, you are fortunate, of course, in that your, well, still relatively new president is a former Nigerian Minister of Agriculture, where he was, you know, quite a big noise and quite a forceful personality. So clearly, for every reason, agriculture is going to be front and center of what you do. But are you able, for example, to support startups in this area from a financial point of view? You have patient capital because you're a development bank, so you're not looking for a quarterly return. Is that something that the bank does?
Well, yes, the bank does that, but it doesn't do it directly. The bank has got the sovereign window as well as the non-sovereign window. And many of such developmental aspects come through the sovereign window. So governments approach us for concessional loans and then sometimes grants to be able to do this. But we have
Governments are not always the best spenders of money.
Yes, for sure.
I agree.
For sure. But what we do is that we have got quite a number of knowledge products which the countries are buying into, which they are promoting. We have got the TAT, we have got the Transforming African Savannah Initiative, and other initiatives like that. So as the countries are taking these on board and borrowing money from us to do it, this change is coming.
Okay, but it's a long tail, isn't it?
Yes, and it's early days yet.
How did you guys get capital?
For us, we started with our own funds.
Pick up a bit.
Bootstrapped. We bootstrapped to start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but along the line, we got a grant from Total. They did one innovation award, which we won, and that was like one of the things that helped us.
Is that because you actually won a financial prize, or because it just publicized the idea and people?
No, because we won a financial prize. So it's been basically our money, reinvesting money from the business, and then that grant from Total.
And you?
Yeah, so we bootstrapped for almost 12 months. And after that, the revenue started coming in. So it helped a lot at the beginning. But then when we started expanding, the money started drying. So we went for an accelerator program in Barcelona. And after that, we got some seed grants and from the Dutch government. And now we have some seed grants again, which is enough to last us for the next 2 years. So basically, we are scaling, and it's been tough at the beginning, but now it's.
But it was friends and
beginning
family when you started.
Yes. It was.
Yes,
Actually.
yes.
But which all the best businesses are, to be fair. Let's talk a little bit about some of the kind of cultural and political aspects of this. And one thing that I put on my list here, which is, Emeka, you wanted to talk about, but I'd like to hear what you think as well, all of you. How do we make agriculture attractive to the young, urban, and trendy of digital disruption? Because let's be honest, if you're sitting in a loft, playing with your computer, you don't necessarily think of, dirty farming. It's a bit beyond your experience. So how do we get those brains that are very smart at digital disruption in other industries interested in agriculture?
Okay. Let me start by painting a picture. Last year, I was in the US. I was addressing the World Bank IMF annual gathering, and there I met this Australian lady. She runs a 7,000-hectare farm, just 28, and she was showing me the workings around the farm from her phone. She was checking the operations and all. Now, the kind of farming that has been marketed to young people, when you say farming, the picture you create, the picture it evokes, it's one of poverty. It's one of, for instance, a farmer who grows cocoa but cannot afford chocolates. It's one of a farmer who grows crops but sometimes has to go to bed hungry. So as long as that kind of imagery is there, it's going to always be a barrier for young people to get into any sort of agriculture. That's on one side. The other aspect is has to do with policies. Now, the truth is this: you cannot entrepreneur or innovate yourself out of bad governance and policies. You have to. There are certain things that have to be in place. If you have so much disconnections, if you have so much things that are not, working together, it creates a challenge. So if I'm a young person and I want to plug into this, and I help to produce this, where does it go to? How am I protected? All those things, if they are not built into the whole system, it's a problem, and it will be a disincentive for young people to want to play in that sector. But it's changing, it's gradual, but one other thing I think would help fuel the rise of this new generation of young, trendy digital farmers is actually to begin to showcase and encourage those who are already at the frontiers to showcase what they are doing, to promote them. Because when you see someone who is your peer who is doing something, it sort of challenges you to say, oh, if Peter can, why can't I? But if you have a situation where you tell young people, what you promote is what you stimulate, that's the truth. If you have a situation where you would rather spend millions of dollars encouraging reality TV shows, musicians, not that any of those is bad, that is what you encourage your young people to aspire to. And then in the next few years, we'll be wondering how to feed ourselves.
So what's clear is that other people of this generation need to listen to these guys. How old are you? Come on, it's not a secret.
So I'm 36.
36. How old are you?
A little
31.
bit.
31. Look at that. Any 25-year-olds in the audience? What do you think of this? They're impressive, aren't they?
Yes,
They
and I
have
think
a passion.
that I like the passion with which they are bringing this. In fact, we did a study here in Ghana to look at youth in agriculture, and the study came out to conclude that they are not ambivalent about agriculture. But what will make a youth go into agriculture is that you show the youth that there is money in there, and then the level of sophistication in there commensurate to my level of sophistication. So I know how to use a few gadgets, I know how to do things, but I shouldn't just go and then be doing things the same old way, and you should show me that there is money in there. And that is what we must be able to display. What the banks need is for the actors in the agricultural landscape to be able to display to them that, yes, it's risky, but you make profit.
Sure.
And there are various innovations that organizations like ours, and I believe some governments, are coming out to respond to this. That is why I'm very excited about what they are saying. It tells me that what we are already been told or perceiving are true, and what we need is we have to innovate ourselves out of this.
Let's just talk for a moment. You mentioned banks, you mentioned government. So let's lump them together. They do overlap, of course, in many places. They are both essentially urban things. Governments care about voters in cities. They build, public transport systems and things that voters in cities like, because they want voters in cities to vote for them. Obviously, they want voters in rural areas to vote for them as well, but they kind of remember that a week before each election. Banks, too, are the financial world, the financial market. Disconnect, not talking only about Ghana, but in other countries in Africa, because it would be fair to say there's one in England, there's one in France. So, I mean, it's not an African problem. But how big an issue do you think that is?
I think that, well, they are private sector looking for profits. And possibly their business case doesn't tell them that they will get that profit if they locate physically at this place. On another breath, the players in the rural areas need their service. And for instance, in Ghana, one of the innovative ways that one of our projects did, they call it the District Value Chain Committees, where they had a platform bringing together players from the bank, mechanized service, input dealer, farmer, aggregator, and everybody. It was a cashless system. So the input dealer, the farmer needs inputs, and the input dealer sends the inputs. Then the mechanized service provider, at the end of the day, the aggregator aggregates the produce. The money is sent into a bank. The bank takes all the costs that it has given us, loans for input and everything, and the farmer is able to get his money as profit. Through that, the interaction with money becomes less. And the physical presence of a bank within that locality.
You've got to trust the bank.
Yes.
Here's the new business idea. Somebody set this up. Now, I've just realized we're 20 minutes after our allotted time, but there's no countdown on this screen, which normally there is. Okay, well, it's a bit far away, and it's hidden behind a podium. Okay. We've got 4 minutes remaining. Would anybody in the audience like to ask a question? I better put my specs on. No, nobody have a question? You all want to go and eat the produce of Ghanaian agriculture that's being served up outside. Let's hope it's Ghanaian produce. Is that a lady asking a question there?
Hi. Good
Hello.
afternoon. My name is Anastasia. I would
Speak
like
up a bit,
to,
please.
Okay. This question goes to Peter and Emeka. I would like to know whether you would accept equity financing for a stake in your company.
Oh,
That was to you, I think.
equity?
Whether we would like to accept equity financing?
Yeah.
Would you like to accept equity for that? She may be offering you
With
$1
both
million
hands.
investment.
I grab it with both hands.
Yeah, so I think it depends. We've taken equity finance already, which means that yes. But at this stage of our growth, we are more attractive to grants because we just realized that we can have access to that and build our company to a level where we can become more attractive to equity finance. So if you have some equity somewhere, money somewhere, you can come and let's talk. Maybe if it's good, we wouldn't mind taking it, but it shouldn't be small. It has to be big enough for us to refuse.
It's only 20 basis points of his equity for $1 million. Would you? Yeah, you would. Yeah. Anybody else have a question? Very good. Well, I think that these, not in any sense disrespecting your good self and the African Development Bank, which is a fine institution, I think these two young men have, they're kind of acting out the story right in front of you. So I'm very, very grateful to have had them. I'm very, very grateful to have had you as well, Terry.